Happy Wednesday. Mark Oppel leading things off here, and 15 minutes away we will open the bell here, ring the bell, and begin the day at CME Group for grain and livestock trade. Joining me now to talk about what may be ahead today, Rich Nelson, our friend from Allendale. He leads things off most mornings here, and Rich, appreciate the work this morning. Again, expect to be a quiet day, especially in this corn trade. Not a lot of activity overnight to make any moves that I could see. Anything that we need to know about?
You know, in terms of big issues here for today, we're still looking at these rains, which are, of course, being seen here for Argentina here this week. That's one thing there to note here. Of course, we can see some secondary focus on this week number 2 forecast, which does bring moderate rain, but probably not what people want to suggest. So there probably is going to be a slight amount of premium here in this bean market.
Let me ask you about the Chinese Dalian exchange here, that the record highs here as we enter the week here. Many suggest they've already purchased over 1 million tons of corn from U.S. since the 1st of November because of it's now profitable, I guess you'd say, to do that. And many suggest that could be a supportive factor going into the new year.
And that certainly will be something we'll have to talk about in the coming weeks here. Regarding these issues, we've had some concerns in the past fall about profitability issues and access to GMO product getting into their shores. But like you said, here looks like the case is they want the product, and certainly for right now, we have the price to offer them.
Rich, the outside markets, of course, we're waiting for that Dow to open here as well, and other markets here as well, crude oil. In our lead story this morning, as a lot of folks, the tax bill passing in the House and Senate here yesterday. There's a procedural issue, I guess, they need to take care of in the House today, as the last that we heard. Ramifications to agriculture and agribusiness.
You know, certainly for the most part, beyond the idea of a stimulating economy, that does give us an influence and a driver for commodity demand, commodity usage, and certainly for our tie even to energy prices. This is a very direct tie now here. This does give us some type of influence. So we're trading now 57.58 for crude oil. Certainly good response compared with just the 45 we were at just a few weeks ago here.
Wow, yeah. Take a look at crude oil, those outside markets, if we might. I'm going to get your thoughts here. Interesting. John and I and Marlon talk about this a lot here because it's been the case the last several weeks that all these contracts, Rich, are all bunched together. I'm not sure what that tells us, what the market feels like, 57.50 to 57.80 all the way from February to next June.
Actually, a great point here. So the market certainly has this idea that we were maybe a little surprised about this rebound in prices at the start of the year here, and now we're ending pretty strong. And as far as this whole pricing issue on crude oil, well, as long as we're holding this uptrend, it's great. But for right now, most people say it probably won't last too much longer past this point, though.
Very good. And the administration is allowing some more drilling in areas where it was not a lot allowed here, and that our energy situation is a whole lot more like we could be even a supplier here to some areas of the world.
That's actually a really important point here. We do have this issue with the Middle Eastern countries as well as Russia holding their production mostly steady and trying to hold those cuts. So this does give us opportunity on the U.S. side to kind of fill in some of that lost export demand. So on this end, we are benefiting.
Rich Nelson joining us from Allendale. And Rich, maybe a quiet day today and maybe tomorrow in the livestock trade, but they've got a lot of news coming their way before they leave on Friday. We'll talk to you about that. Rich Nelson, Allendale joining us. We'll be back looking at the livestock trade after this. Set your clock. It's 20 minutes after the hour, so 10 minutes away from opening our livestock trade here on the day futures. Looks like the cash market starting out pretty slow here today as well. In fact, all week, Rich Nelson joining us from Allendale and looking at the cattle trade. These two sides, packers are not really looks like they have their supplies. They've got 2 holidays, the next 2 Mondays in a row, and feedlots are kind of holding firm in here now. They've kept cattle moving and they're current, and they want some steady money at least.
Great point here. So this market certainly is very well supplied right now. We have a lot of beef on hand, a lot of pork on hand as well. Not a whole lot of brand new demand from the end user side, but on the bullish end, we have a good drop seasonally in production directly ahead. So certainly true. A lot of arguments going on right now in this industry here. Going
to the break, we mentioned all the numbers coming from USDA on Friday. Now, normally livestock reports come out after the close of a trade, and then they pick up the next trading day. With Christmas, they're going to release that in the morning, as they do grain reports. And cattle on feed, folks, again, the placement number is kind of where there's a lot of variance.
Certainly is, and last month we were the high estimate of the entire analyst group, and this month we're going to be the low estimate. We're suggesting a 0.8% year-over-year decline in placements. That would stop those two previous strong months of high placement.
Wow. Yeah, but I was seeing the average estimate here was like up 6 to 7%. So you're thinking there may be no change from numbers a year ago.
Exactly right. And the one thing to keep in mind, this number we're being compared against from last year was a very large number. It was 15% over its previous year. So we are being compared against a large number for this month's report here. Very
good. And then we also have the, by the way, let's take a look at that beef cutout, because it's lower again, I believe, a couple days higher beef cutout after about 5 days lower. Well, back to the lower side here once again, and below the 202 level on that choice cutout, Rich.
Certainly true, and this does reflect the fact that end users, though they are concerned about the future slight drop-off in supply as we go into February and March, certainly for right now, they are in a very well-supplied situation here.
Very good. As long as I'm taking a look at the cutouts here, let's take a look with the beef cutout lower. Those of you tuning in on Rural Radio, choice down $1.39 as we start the morning, 201.76. Select down 69 cents, 184.32. Moving over to the pork side of the ledger, it's kind of a mixed trade there. The carcass overall higher by just 41 cents, but still more pressure on hams and still more pressure on the belly trade, Rich.
Certainly the case right now, and keep in mind we're coming off of last week, which itself was a record kill and production week of all time. This week is going to be another attempt to try and take care of the small backlog of market-ready hogs. So another good kill week lined up this one as well.
And maybe they're looking ahead to the bitter cold temperatures coming here after the Christmas holiday. About this time next week, they'll be looking at some Iowa, Minnesota may not get to zero.
Certainly a very good point, and weather is going to be a very big issue. Keep in mind, last year we already had 2 to 4 snow days by this point. So for right now, we've had generally a better than expected situation.
And as roughly here, before we leave you, quarterly hog and pig report Friday afternoon as well, Rich. What does Allendale think about the all hogs number?
This one will show still expansion in place. Our numbers will be on the lower end of the entire group, only 1.3% higher than last year. So still expansion, but a lowered pace here. Well,
we're going to start it here in about 6-7 minutes. We appreciate your comments ahead of that opening bell.
Happy to help out.
Thank you. We are glad to have you on our team. Rich Nelson, Allendale there. And Janet, we will open this thing up in about 7 minutes, and we'll be here to see what happens after that bell rings.
See what Midweek has in store for us.
Exactly.
Thank you, Mark.